everyone knows, literally everyone, humans, animal kingdom, and all, everyone knows that it is dangerous to stand out. It is. If you take a look, even the lion, the king of the jungle, runs in packs. He runs in packs, and typically most lions, you have an alpha lion in the pack, and then most of the other male lions will fall into the ranks. Because what they know is that it's most dangerous to stand out. You see, the alpha lion, what a lot of people don't know, is the alpha lion typically has the shortest lifespan. The alpha lion is the one that constantly has to battle for his position in the pack. He's also the one that has to battle for mating purposes and protect everyone else in the pack, right? It's a dangerous position to be in. And typically, alpha lions have the shortest lifespan. So even lions know and understand that it is dangerous to stand out. If you take a look at a herd of elephants, we're talking about this massive creature, right? It weighs tons and tons of pounds. It can knock down trees. It can bulldoze through jungles. It's this massively powerful animal. It's huge, but yet even an elephant knows that it's dangerous to stand out. That's why you'll always see elephants running together in herds, protecting their young, protecting one another. Now, see, the same is true for humans. When a human tends to stand out from the rest of the pack, it's a very dangerous situation for them to be in. Take a look at people like Elon Musk, who completely stands out. He has thoughts that are very unique, much different than most. But in standing out and doing things the way that he does, he's constantly under scrutiny. You can also use Mark Zuckerberg as an example. He stood out and created this incredible tool called Facebook that we have today. Fast forward, and he's sitting in front of the Supreme Court answering questions of ethical responsibilities and the basically Pandora's box that he's opened up into the world. You can take somebody like Steve Jobs, who was under constant scrutiny for every decision that he made, ultimately getting fired from his own company that he founded. Guys like Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, under constant scrutiny about his divorce and his decisions with his company and whether or not he pays taxes. Of course, you've got this guy that you all know and either love or hate or love to hate or whatever it is, but he stands out. He does things differently than everyone else. He stands out in the crowd, and it's a dangerous position to be in. Whether it's animal kingdom or human beings, everybody knows that it's dangerous to stand out. Now, see, I experienced this with dealerships that I work with, in car dealerships that I work with. What I'll find is that no matter what dealership I go to, depending on what their standard of average is, all right, I want you to, that's a key word there. Depending on what their standard of average is, what you're going to find in every dealership that you're going to walk into is about 80% of your salespeople are going to sell around the same amount. Whatever that standard of average is, whatever that pay plan works out to be, right? Whatever that sweet spot is for them to be able to pay their bills and afford the lifestyle that they choose, that standard of average is going to exist. In most stores, that standard of average is somewhere around 12 cars, right? Now, 80% of your people are going to fall into the pack, that standard of average. 10% are going to fall below. They're going to fail. They're going to be underperformers. There's 10% that are going to stand out. 10% that are going to take the lead, that are going to be above the rest of the pack, right? That are above the standard of average. So you've got your highs and your lows, and it's frustrating as a manager. We're like, if everyone would just perform like that guy at 10%, or that girl that crushes it like Carissa Johnson, right? If everybody would just perform like that, life would be so much easier. Here's the thing, though. It's dangerous to stand out. See, we all know this, and so we tend to fall into the pack. Let me give you another example. If you look at wealth stretched across the United States of America, what you'll find is the same is to be true. About 80% of Americans fall into the standard of average. It is a safe place to be. You see, you've got about 11.8% that fall below into what's considered poor, and then you've got another 10% that fall above $77,500 a year. So you've got 10% above 77.5. You've got another 10% that are considered poor, and then you have the rest of Americans that fall into this standard of average. It's safe. It's not dangerous. This is why they tell you, and that I will reiterate to you, that your circle, the people you spend the most time with, is so important. Because, see, in order for you to put yourself in a position where you're actually willing to stand out, where you're actually willing to face the danger, the easiest way to do that is to raise your standard of average. You see, I used to hang out with a bunch of people that made $20,000 a year. And guess what decisions I made at that point in my life? Then there were seasons where I hung out with people that were crooks and criminals and druggies. And guess what decisions I made in my life? And then there were seasons of my life where I hung out with people that were higher level, that were up in management and that were starting to serve others. I started hanging out in the church and surrounding myself with those types of people. And guess what types of decisions I started to make in my life? And now I'm trying to continue to escalate my circle so that I am raising my own individual standard of average. I can still fall into the pack. I can still fall into the 80%. I'm just raising the 80%. Makes sense? You see, in order to raise your standard of average, you're going to have to do a couple things. First of all, you're going to have to draw hard lines. Okay? You have to understand what is your mission, your vision, and your values. Now, once you draw these hard lines, this is the mission, this is the vision, these are my values. Once you draw those hard lines, then every decision you make must align with that. You understand? Every single decision you make must align with mission, vision, values. If it falls in line with your mission and your vision, but not your values, the answer is no. If it falls in line with your vision and your values, but not your mission, the answer is no. You see, understanding this, drawing these hard lines, increasing your standard of average is a tool. It's a resource that you can use to help weed out the no's in your life and bring in the yeses, which ultimately will increase your opportunities, which will ultimately increase your life. Now, see, I learned this from an incredible woman. Now, let me tell you a quick story. I was at 10X GrowthCon in Miami, Florida. It was Grant Cardone's first conference of its kind. It was the very first 10X a couple years ago. And I was at the event with Josh Cummins, the owner of the dealership. He had brought me, and we were there, and it was very exciting. There was TVs and lights and music, and the energy was electric. It was an incredible experience. 3,000 people all there for Grant Cardone's 10X GrowthCon. Now, there were certain speakers I wanted to see on the stage, like Damon John and some different big names that I wanted to see. And so I was excited to get the opportunity to meet Grant Cardone himself and so on and so forth. And then they announced that there was a woman getting ready to come on stage by the name of Danelle Delgado. And when they announced Danelle Delgado was going to come on the stage, I was like, I don't know who this person is. I don't know who this person is, and I really, I'm all jacked up, and I kind of want to go in the back and meet Les Brown or whatever, right? I was thinking all these different things, and so I was going to go to the restroom. And if I missed Danelle, I missed Danelle. No big deal, right? So that was my plan. And so as I got up to go to the restroom, Danelle came out on stage, and for some reason I paused and stopped, and I started to watch this incredibly fierce human as she stood on the stage and she started to tell her story. You see, Danelle told a story of a battle that she had had in her life. She told a story of a battle that she had had where she had gone through a divorce, and after her divorce, she was raising 3 biracial children by herself. She told a story of how her family was removed. She didn't have her mom and dad and people to live on or lean on because of the decisions she had made in her life to pursue entrepreneurship. And so she continued to tell her story. She also told her story about battling cancer. And she told a story about laying on the floor and not sure that she could get back up and wanting to quit and give up, but she didn't. She got up, and then she continued to tell the story of how she got a place to live, and she had a tent, and her beautiful children were in this tent on Christmas Eve, and she had no money. She bought them each like a little McDonald's toy so they'd at least have something on Christmas Day to open. And as she told this story of her struggle, of her battle, of her fight, of the attacks from the outside, of everything that she had to go through, and then she shared that she ultimately ended up drawing a hard line. She drew a hard line. She figured out what her mission and her vision and her values in life were, and she started serving others. She started serving others. She found herself, just like our quote says today. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. She found herself in the service of others. And as she told her story of this triumphant journey where she went from poverty to the place that she is today, she told this story, right? And she got rewarded. She broke through. She's now working harder than ever to serve more people than ever. But now she's living life on her terms. And then at 10X GrowthCon, as this story is just breaking me down, right? Like she's got me. I'm stuck. I can't take my eyes off of her. And as she's sharing this story, she says, my friends, she says, raise your hand if you know 10X rule. And I raise my hand. Raise your hand if you've read Grant Cardone's this. And I raise my hand. And raise your hand if you watch all the Grant Cardone videos. And I raise my hand. And she's like, if you know, Grant, and I'm feeling good about myself. I'm like, I know Grant. I know the strategies. I know how to build wealth. I know how to impact the world. I know all these things. I'm raising my hand. I'm raising my right and raising my hand. And then at one point she says, okay, keep your hand up. Now do me a favor. Keep your hand up if you know all the things that you're supposed to be doing in your life, but you're not doing them. If you know all the strategies, but you're not applying them. And so I had to keep my hand up. Because the reality is I knew exactly what I needed to do, but I was scared to stand out from the pack. I wasn't prepared to raise my standard of average. I was mighty comfortable right where I was. I was leading a dealership. I was making great money. I had a great family. I was comfortable. But she made me realize I wasn't living to my fullest potential in that exact moment. And then she asked me to look up. She said, look up that hand. Look up at that hand and realize all of the lives that can be touched by that hand if you truly live out an extraordinary life. When Danelle Delgado told her story, she changed my life. She empowered me with her story. She moved me with her story. She changed my life forever. It wasn't much longer. I connected with Danelle. And she did a call. This is my old little utility closet where I used to do this show. And she did a call. That was my first call with Danelle right there, video call. And she helped me break down my mission, my vision, my values. The things that I just will not go against. And she changed everything. If it wasn't for Danelle, there wouldn't be Rise and Grind the way that there is today. If it wasn't for Danelle, my life would be completely different. I share this story with you because I want you to understand that in order for you to devour your desires, to really live the life that you truly want to live, at some point you're going to have to tell your story. And yes, it's going to be dangerous. And yes, you're going to stand out from the pack because your story is different than everybody else's. It is so incredibly unique. But you're going to have to share your story, because when you do, there are people's lives who are going to be changed. Whose life will you change when you take the lead and tell your story? God gave it to you, and only you, a child of God, uniquely made by the God of the universe. The God who made everything made you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And I know you're making good decisions. I know you're watching hashtag Rise and Grind. I know you're doing your best to pour into people. And I just want to challenge you. I just want to challenge you today to live it, girl. Live it. Live it to the fullest, because it matters. Every decision that you make, it matters. It makes an impact on your friends, on your family members, on your coworkers. It makes an impact on me. It does. You showing up here every day, you hitting the share button, you liking my show, you dropping comments, you sending me messages. It makes an impact in my life. I absolutely stinking love you for it. I do. If nobody's told you that yet today, I want to be the first. I absolutely stinking love you.